Okay, today we're going to learn how to edit files. It should be really simple. It shouldn't really be anything too difficult, except we're going to be doing it directly within the command line. I am going to show you how to do file editing using the graphical user interface, but it is, as I always say, much better to do it directly inside of the command line. So, to get started, we're just going to switch here. And at this point, you should see my desktop. And I'm just going to close our Manjaro hello, just as if we were just logging in. I'm going to close notes in case that has also spawned for you. If it hasn't, that's fine as well. But here we are at the command line. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open the terminal emulator. Mine is under favorites. Obviously, you can come up here and you can type term, and you can see terminal emulator right here. Click here, and this opens. Now, if you remember, we can CD Charlie Delta into the desktop, PWD, Papa Whiskey Delta, hit enter. We'll see home test desktop. I can touch test file.txt. So TOUCH, Tango Oscar Uniform Charlie Hotel space test file.txt. The name of the file does not matter. And we can type Victor India Mike VIM space TEST, and we're going to hit the tab key here. Now what this is this is called auto completion. If you begin the process of typing a word and then you hit tab, it will automatically fill in the rest of that word. And this is really, really neat because you can use this for a ton of stuff. So I'm actually going to touch another file called testfile2.txt. And so we now have two files. If we do ls, you'll see there's test file and then testfile2.txt. If I type in vim space test, you'll see that it goes all the way in to test file. But there's now two versions that I can choose. So by double-clicking tab, hitting that button twice, Tango Alpha Bravo, so the tab key, generally that's found to the left of the Q or Quebec key. Hit it twice, and you'll see that it says there's testfile.txt and testfile2.txt. So we're just going to type the period and hit tab again, and it finishes everything for us. Hitting enter, you'll see that you don't have Vim. That's okay. We're going to install some software. We're going to type in sudo, so that stands for sudo, and then we're going to type pacman space, and then we're going to use a dash, and that dash is called or referenced as switch is what that means. And then we're going to type a capital S, lowercase y, lowercase u. That's the first thing that we're going to do. It's going to ask for our password, so that's fine. We're going to enter our password, and you're going to see that it's going to say synchronizing package databases. What we're doing is we're doing an update of the system. You should always update your system before you install new software. Don't ever allow your system to sit out of date and then install software, because you could run into issues. But doing it this way, now all we need to do is type in sudo space pacman space switch s, and then we're going to type vim and hit enter. It's going to ask, do you want to install this? We're going to choose yes. And it's going to go out to the internet, it's going to find that package for us, and it's going to install it. And then here momentarily, everything will come back and we'll have access to Vim. Great. So now that that's complete, what we can next do is press the up arrow, up arrow, up arrow, and you'll see that it's already got vim testfile.txt in there for us, so that we don't have to type all that out again. This is really good to know just in case this event happens, right? I want to run a command. I discover I don't have that command installed. I install the command, and then now that I have access to Vim, I can very quickly just press up a couple of times, and I'm right back to where I was previously. We now hit enter, and we have opened Vim. It's minimalistic. There's not a ton of stuff in here right now, and we have done no special configuration, but we can do that special configuration later. If you hit escape, nothing happens. If you hit the space key, nothing happens. If we hit the enter key, nothing happens. At this point, you might be thinking to yourself that maybe even your computer has frozen because nothing seems to be working as we type different things into the keyboard. Vim is very special in the way that it works, in that you actually have modes. And so you're going to enter and exit modes using your keyboard. And the easiest way to remember these modes is I for insert, hit escape, and it exits insert mode. O for insert, but on a new line, hit escape, and then press U, and then that takes us back to exactly where we were before. And then the next one would be pressing V, which would place us in a visual mode, and this can be used for selecting text. And I'm going to hit escape again. If you're ever confused and you're not sure if you're inside insert or visual mode or anything like that, you can look down here in the bottom left-hand corner to find out. But if you're just in a hurry and you just need to make sure that you are not in a specific mode, just hit escape like 3 times, and that pretty much guarantees you that you're going to go back to regular mode, right? So I'm going to type I, and that places me into insert mode. I'm going to type hello world, and I'm going to press the period key. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to type the quick brown fox jumps over the fence, and hit period, and then hit escape. And you'll see I am no longer in insert mode. However, I can use my up and down arrows to move around, right? I can hit the delete key, and that will remove a letter. Press I, hit E, put the letter back. Vim is very, very powerful. It does a lot of really cool stuff. And the nice thing is that it is not a word processor, it is a text editor, and there is a difference. The difference is a word processor like Microsoft Word saves a whole lot of extraneous information into your file and ruins that file if you were trying to use it for something like computer programming or Markdown or anything like that. With a text editor, you just have text, which means you can use this for software development, you can use it for editing files on another server, you can use it for editing configuration files, you can use it for any number of things. And I use Vim, once you have it configured and set up to your liking, I use it for literally everything. I write books with it, I write stories, I write configuration files, I do my computer programming on it, I do everything for my job. Anything that I want to accomplish, I can do all of that in Vim. Now, we are not, and I'm just going to hit escape a couple of times here, and I'm going to show you some other things that we can do. You can go to a line, and let's say that I don't need this line that says the quick brown fox jumps over the fence. That's fine. Hit delta, delta twice, deletes the entire line for us. Press U as in uniform, line comes right back. If I want to move within the file very quickly, I can hit the E key, and it will move me to the last letter of each word every time I hit E. So every time I hit echo, I can move in that direction. Let's see what else. I can, again, use the arrow keys. Vim is very well known for being a text editor that allows you to only use your keyboard. You don't have to use your mouse, and you don't have to use the arrow keys. You can actually do everything using the H, K, L, and J keys. So if you were interested in moving back and forth in that manner, J goes down, K goes up, H goes to the left, and then L goes to the right. So you can type H, 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 L, 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 J, L, 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 and I can move around. And that means that as long as my hands are on the keyboard, I never have to take them off of the keyboard. Let's see. There is a spell check. You press Z, as in Zulu, and then the E key, and it will ask you, do you want to change the word that is currently highlighted? I had the cursor over fox, and I can choose something else to change it to. You can hit Q to exit out of that. I can press V, hit the right arrow twice, hold shift, press the open quote, and then the plus symbol, and then Y. That will then, what is that? Interesting. Can come here. Let me show you V there. Here. What do I want to do? Oh, we'll have to configure this. Actually, this may actually not work for you right now. Let me see here. Is it? Give me just a second. Oh yeah. So I'll have to help you configure your ability to copy and paste directly from the terminal within Vim. Let's take a look, because this should be the exact copy. Oh, to exit, and this is super important. If you want to be able to exit and save, you're going to hold Shift, press the colon button. You'll see that that shows up down here. We can then type W and then Q. Hit enter, and that writes and quits out of the file. Doing it with just a W will write only. Doing it with just a Q will attempt to quit. But if you have unsaved changes, you will have to use an exclamation point followed by the Q in order to exit. So I'm going to type in VIM dash V, dash version. Perfect. And I just want to look at some of this stuff in here. And what I'm looking for is to see if it's going to come back and say anything about clipboard. Yeah, so clipboard is not compiled in, and that's why we can't save to the clipboard. Let's fix that, actually. I will go here, type in Firefox, Vim, add clipboard support. Let's do that. Sudo pacman switch s vim dash gtk. Sudo pacman switch ss vim, and this gives us a list of what all Vim copies are available. And I'm going to show you some items, like being able to do something like gvim is what we're looking for. So this one would be the one that we want, and it will also provide you with a graphical user interface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove Vim. We're going to do sudo pacman switch R Vim. Do we want to remove this? And actually, if you remember when we did the installation, it installed 2 items. We can do rs, and you'll see that it uninstalls everything. So we can say yes. And then we can do sudo pacman switch s gvim. Choose yes. Vim dash version. And if we come up here, we will now see that our clipboard is included. Great. So I'm going to type vim followed by testfile.txt. I'm going to go here, press V, move all the way over here, open quotes, plus symbol, Y key, press O, hold Shift and hit Insert, and now I can copy and paste. I can come here, hold Shift, hit Insert, and I can copy and paste directly out of my terminal. I'm going to hit DB, and I'm going to remove the text. So installing gvim right out of the gate is probably better. It just makes things much easier for you, and will include things like clipboard support. Just makes stuff easier. If we hold Shift and again we close, and it's going to ask, like I said, because I made changes here, and it's going to want to know, do we want to override those changes? I'm going to say yes. So I'm going to do Q, lowercase, exclamation point, or you can even do exclamation point to Q, whichever one you're more comfortable with. Hit enter, type clear, and I'm going to do sudo patman switch s neo-vim, or is it just neovim? Yes, just neovim. We're going to hit yes, hit enter, give it a few seconds here. And this takes a little bit longer because this copy of Vim is even larger. And you can see here that it's giving you some optional dependencies. Let's install these. So I'm going to go python-neovim, xclip, xcell, w-clipboard, and hit yes. And it's going to download and install these as well. And it's going to say, do you need any of these optional? But we don't because they're already pre-installed for us, so it doesn't matter. Now I'm going to type NVIM November Victor India Mike space test file period, hit tab again, .txt, and this is going to be neovim. I like neovim. All the commands are going to be pretty much the same. I can do all the stuff that I was doing previously with our other copy. Doesn't matter. It just makes your life easier, and it's also programmed in a different language. This doesn't affect you as a user, but what it does affect is the way that the system handles what is called blocking. And what you will find with a regular copy of Vim is when you install plugins and Vim has to do a whole bunch of work in the background, it will pause your ability to interact with a file because it has to block access. So you have a period of blocking in which you don't have access to your keyboard, essentially, as it does work. NeoVim is programmed in such a way that even though it has to do work in the background, it will allow you to continue to type at the same time. So it's just quote unquote faster. There's really no difference in speed because it's just a text editor, but the difference is that NeoVim does not suffer from as much blocking of resources as a regular copy of Vim. Now, here's your issue. NeoVim is not necessarily going to be available on every system that you interact with. If you go log into a server somewhere, NeoVim might not be there. But this is where that whole idea of being able to work in a terminal and still be effective comes into play, because you can use Vim, you can use NeoVim, you can use gvim, and almost all of the commands are going to be the same, just the way of the system behaves is going to be a little bit different, but that's not that big a deal. Just because the system doesn't behave the same way doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to still do your job. You may just have to adapt a little bit to be able to work with it. So that really covers working with files. And just as a reminder, we can hit ls, right? rm, we're going to get rid of test file 2.txt. So what did I do? Romeo Mike, space, test, hit tab. It filled in the word file for me. I hit the 2 key, and then I hit tab again, filled everything else in for me, and I can hit enter. And now that file is gone. There is no trash. There is no send to trash can or anything like that whenever you're working in the terminal. So don't use rm to delete a file unless you're ready for that file to go away. Next item. Let's look at a couple of commands for dealing with files directly from the terminal that don't involve Vim. So Charlie, Alpha, Tango, space, T, hit tab, hit enter, and you'll see that the file comes out as hello world. The quick brown fox jumps over the fence. It starts at the top and it works its way down. We can type Tango, Alpha, Cat, tac, space, T, hit tab, oops, hit enter, and now it starts from the bottom and works its way down. Tac, right? So you have cat and tac. That allows you to print the contents of a file directly to the screen. Other things that we can do. Golf, Romeo, Echo, Papa, space. Let's look for the word fox, and then we can hit enter and type test file, hit the button, and you will see it searched for the word fox inside of that file, found it, and then it printed the line that the word fox was on. So it didn't even print the line hello world anymore. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about here? I think really that's it. This gives you an idea of how to work with files. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. If we type MAN followed by NVIM, so I'm going to do this one more time. Mike, Alpha, November, space, November, Victor, India, Mike. Hit enter. This is your instruction manual. Almost every command is going to have an instruction manual. If it doesn't, Google it. But for very quick methods for finding something out, you can just type in NVIM. So, or I'm sorry, man, followed by the command. So this says description. NVIM is a text editor based on Vim. You start NVIM followed by any number of options and or files. Commands in NVIM begin with colon, which is what we did. Remember, shift, full stop, colon. And then you can type things like help, and then followed by a subject, or Q to quit, or W to write, so on and so forth. There is a Vim NVIM tutor. I'm not going to do this tutor. I've done it a million times with my students. You should do it. You start it like that. So we can actually also type Vim tutor and hit enter, and it will start the Vim tutor for you. Takes about 30 minutes to do. Every single student, every person that I work with, everybody who walks through the door to work with me, if I am in charge of them, has to complete Vim tutor. Like, full stop. I have had 14-year-old kids who have worked with me as volunteers learning computers. I have made them very first command that they have to do is run Vim tutor. I actually had a kid who was super hardcore Windows user. He was, like I said, he's 14 years old. All he liked was Windows. He thought that because I worked for law enforcement that I didn't know shit about computers. Very first thing I did was set him down in front of a computer, and I was like, okay, edit this configuration file. And I gave him a config file, and he was like, ah, and he like didn't have any idea how to work with it because it's a text file, right? But if you open it up in Microsoft Word, it gets all jacked up, and he couldn't figure out what to do. So next thing he did was Vim tutor, got through Vim tutor, and then I made him work in Vim the entire time, the 4.5 weeks that he worked with me. And by the time he was done, he went home, took Windows off of his computer, installed Linux, bought 2 Raspberry Pis. His dad bought them for him. He set up a home server. He set up his own network and got his entire life rearranged into like Linux living, and now he's doing great. Like 16 years old, I think he is now. He's done talks. He's literally gone out and spoke on Linux up on stage. He is, to the best of my knowledge, doing a fantastic job, and I keep track of him on LinkedIn, and he has his own webpage now. So with that said, I'm not saying that these are things that you have to do, but Vim tutor is going to be an extremely important part of what you do. You should take the time to do this. You really should, especially if this is the kind of stuff that you want to learn. And it will work you through things like, hey, if one of these commands is not working, make sure that the caps lock key is not depressed. So press caps lock key. If the caps lock key is glowing or you see the caps lock symbol glowing on your keyboard, hit it again, make sure it's not glowing, things like that. It's really easy. See, H key moves to the left. L key moves to the right. K goes up. J goes down. That allows you to move around. Again, you don't need to use the mouse. Everything that you can possibly do on your computer, you want to do without using the mouse as much as possible. Keyboard, terminal, stay away from graphical user interfaces, stay away from the mouse. The more that you can do without the mouse, the better. So if you noticed, I can make the start menu appear, and I can make the start menu disappear. I'm not touching my mouse. I'm hitting my keyboard. You can probably hear that click, right? What I'm doing is I'm hitting the little Windows key, and it automatically spawns that for me. I type terminal, hit the down arrow key. I can pick one of these, right? So I can hit terminal emulator here. If we look, we see file, edit, view, terminal, tabs, help, all up there in the top, right? If I hold Alt and press F, you'll see that it opens, and I can now move through this using just my mouse. And you can also see there's shortcuts here. So if I want to close this window, it's Shift Control Q. And I'm not saying that you have to memorize all of this right away, but Shift Control Q, and it's gone, right? Start working towards that. Start working your way to where, let's say that you do sit here and you think to yourself, man, I really want to open a new tab on my terminal. Well, I might do this for the first time, right? I might hit the tabs key and look here and kind of look around and see, okay, what do I see? I've got previous tabs, next tab, last active tab, all right. What about terminal? File? Here we go. Open tab. Shift Control T. So what happens if I do Shift Control T? Oh, I've got a new tab. Okay. Hold Alt. Press F. And I can look. I can see, okay, what if I want to close that tab? Well, it's Shift Control W. It's right down here, right? So I might be in here and I might type Shift Control W. For the first few times, yeah, using your mouse to figure this stuff out and to click and to take a look at some of these items like what you're going to see right here or within the tabs. You're looking for these shortcuts, right? It's hunt and peck and it's click on stuff. That's totally okay. Totally fine. Not a big deal. But by the 5th, 6th, 7th time that you've been doing this stuff, you should know, okay, Shift Control T, I've got a new tab. Shift Control W, I close the tab. Oh, you know what? I'm going to hit the Windows key real quick. I'm going to type games, and I can see that I've got Steam installed. Or I can even come down here and let's just pretend I'm going to pick internet, come back down here, and I can see. And we'll go over things like hex chat. We're going to replace that. We're not going to use hex chat. But we can see Firefox. So you have a web browser in here. Let me show you one more thing before we close, because I don't want these to be too long. Sudo pacman switch s firejail. Hit enter. Type our password. Yep. Go ahead and install that. We'll give it a few seconds to complete. Great. Now that we have that, actually, I want to see if this is going to work real quick. And we'll see how that works. So I'm going to type firejail space Firefox, hit enter, and it now spawns a copy of Firefox. Perfect. And I'm not seeing any errors, and it looks like it's working. So we're probably okay here. I didn't go down here, and I didn't open up Firefox from inside of here. I didn't type Firefox or anything like that, right? I did it all from the terminal. I just went here, and when I'm done, I can close it, and you'll see that it shuts down here. Now, that takes up one of your terminals, right? That's kind of a pain for us. But again, Control-Shift-T, Firejail, Firefox. Eventually, I'll show you how to background processes, so you can open this without it taking up the front process. I can actually do that here. Shift, hit the number 7. That gives us an ampersand. Hit enter. It'll open everything. And then the issue is because we're running Firejail with Firefox, it does send it to the background, but then it just sends the profile reading here to the front. We'll deal with that later. I can close that, and then I can exit also if I wanted to. We can type FG, we can type BG, we can see no such jobs, no current jobs, things like that. I'm going to close this. So with that said, that's kind of your start to all of this. We edited some files, we installed some software, we uninstalled some software, and then I showed you how to run a command like Firefox directly from the terminal. Before we shut it down, let's go ahead and get rid of this test file. Hit enter. And now our desktop is clear again. And we can do something like sudo halt switch p, and that will actually shut the computer down directly from the terminal. Be very careful doing that, because if you are remotely connected to a system and you do that, somebody actually has to go over and press the power button to turn the computer back on if they don't have some kind of remote administration system for managing things like power, and then you're screwed, because now you've got a computer turned off halfway around the world and you got to go find somebody to go turn it back on. That's for future reference, just something to keep in mind. But with that said, hope that helps, and I'll get another video made here soon.